Hey, it's Kay. Welcome back to my channel. So in the month of July, I unknowingly read not one, but two starts to series that I thought were standalones. Those two being Verity Guild by my Corland, which is the first book in a duology, and the second one being She Who Devours by Bustamante, which is the first book in an undetermined series. In yet to be determined series length? I don't know. The first book in a series, and we don't even know how many books that series is going to be yet. If you know anything about me, you probably know that I don't like reading unfinished series because I don't like being left on cliffhangers. So if you're like me, here is a list of releases for the second half of 2026 that are all final books in a series. Since these are all going to be the final book in a series, it means we are now free to start them and pick it up without having to worry about it never getting finished, about being left on a cliffhanger, or all of that. We can just binge it from start to finish. Side note, since the final books haven't come out yet, I have not started any of these series, so I can't really comment on whether or not they're worth reading. These are just all the series that are currently on my radar to start once their final book has been published. That being said, the first series we are going to talk about is The Flesh and False Gods by Chloe Gong. Book 1 is Immortal Longings, which was published in 2023. This is a trilogy, and its third book is scheduled to be published on August 4th. So I think it should be out by the time that this video comes up. The Flesh and False Gods trilogy is Chloe Gong's adult epic fantasy romance debut series. She is the author of These Violent Delights. But the series is inspired by Antony and Cleopatra by Shakespeare. Every year, the palace in the Kingdom of Talon hosts a set of deadly games. Those who win will be given unimaginable riches. Princess Calla is in hiding after causing the massacre that killed her parents, and now 5 years later she intends to win the games to get the opportunity to kill her uncle and bring down the monarchy once and for all. Anton is an exiled aristocrat. His childhood love has been in a coma ever since they were exiled, and he intends to win the games to save her and repay the deep debt he has accumulated trying to keep her alive. Calla and Anton form an unexpected alliance along with the king's adopted son, but because the three of them all have very different goals, they ultimately will need to decide what they're playing for. This caught my eye because it has deadly games, which are kind of like trials, and those are always very intriguing to me. I feel like it has the potential for politics, and the fact that Calla was willing to kill her own family to end a monarchy makes her very intriguing as a character. I feel like most monarchs tend not to be like that. So yeah. Then the next series is Faebound by Saara el-arifi. Book 1 is Faebound, which was published in 2024. This series is also a trilogy. The third book, Earthbound, will be published on 27th of August. You might recognize Saara el-arifi from her new release, Cleopatra, that was published earlier this year, or from the Ending Fire trilogy. The Faebound series follows these two elven sisters who were imprisoned in the Fae world. Yirin is a warrior in the elven army, and her sister Lettel is a diviner. A mistake leads to Yirin's exile from the elven lands, which forces both sisters into the wilderness beyond the borders, where they encounter the Fae court. The Fae haven't been seen in a millennium, but now the two sisters are thrust into their seductive world, torn among their loyalties to each other, their elven homeland, and their hearts. I have heard a lot of people talking about this series online, and I can't really remember anything bad about it. It is a sapphic romantic fantasy, and as I mentioned in my pet picks video, I really just need more sapphic stories in my life, so this is another anticipated series for me. Then moving on to our September releases, we have The Stonewater Kingdom duology by Rachel Gillig. Book 1 is The Night and the Moth, published in 2025, and the second book, The Knave and the Moon, is scheduled to be published on September 1st, 2026. Rachel Gillig, you might recognize from the Shepherd King duology, which is One Dark Window and Two Twisted Crowns. Her new duology, the Stonewater Kingdom series, follows a diviner named Sybil. She receives visions from these figures known as the Owens, which help her predict terrible things before they occur. Her fellow diviners begin to vanish for some reason, and Sybil has to get help from a rude knight named Roderick who has absolutely no respect for her visions. Like I said, this is Rachel Gillig's second duology. She had written the Shepherd King duology, which I read a few years ago and absolutely... Actually, did I read that last year? I don't remember when I read it. But she wrote the Shepherd King duology, and I absolutely loved that duology. I loved the magic. I thought her writing was very immersive, and so I'm excited to try out her new duology. Then the next one is the Kindred's Curse saga by Penn. Book 1 of this series is Spark of the Everflame, which was published in 2023. This series is a quartet, and its fourth and final book, Burn of the Everflame, is scheduled to be published on September 8th. The Kindred's Curse saga takes place in a mortal world colonized by gods and ruled over by their cruel offspring, the Descended. After Diem's mother suddenly disappears, Diem is offered the opportunity to enter the world of the Descended royalty and unlock the mysteries her mother left behind. While the heir to the throne is watching her every move and a ruthless mortal alliance recruits her to join a civil war, Diem has to navigate the unwritten rules of love, power, and politics to save her family and all of mortal kind. I have actually heard a ton of mixed things about this series. I feel like generally speaking, people tend to like this, but I have heard that the main reason people don't like the series is because they find the main character Diem to be very irritating and they don't really agree with her choices. I currently own books 1 and 2, so this is one that's been on my radar for a while now, and I am interested in picking this up once book 4 is released. Then the next series is Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. The first book, Ninth House, was published in 2019. This is a trilogy with book 3, Deadbeat, being published on September 15th of this year. Leigh Bardugo has also written Six of Crows and the Shadow and Bone series, neither of which I've read yet. But the Ninth House series follows Alex Stern. She had a rough childhood full of drug dealer boyfriends, dead-end jobs, and she was the sole survivor of an unsolved multiple homicide. On her hospital bed, Alex is offered a full ride to Yale with the task of monitoring Yale's secret societies. Their occult activities are revealed to be more sinister and extraordinary than any paranoid imagination might conceive. I remember book 1 being very, very popular in the early book talk days, but I feel like I haven't heard a ton about the rest of the series. This is a dark academia series, and I don't typically read a lot of dark academia, so I am interested in trying out this series and trying out that genre to see if I would like it. Then our last September release is in the Heir duology by Sabaa Tahir, book 1 being Heir, published in 2024, and the second book, Empire, will be published September 22nd. Sabaa Tahir is the author of An Emperor in the Ashes quartet, as well as the standalone All My Rage. Heir follows 3 people who go on a journey together that may cost them their lives and their hearts. Ayaz, I don't know how to say the names, so I apologize. Ayaz is an orphan who grew up in the slums. A tragedy fuels her need for vengeance, but her love for her people propels her until she lands in prison, causing her wrath to ignite. Saoirse is a tracker who agrees to hunt down a killer murdering children across the Marshall Empire, and Quill is the crown prince of the empire who does not want to take the throne after his aunt steps down. He understands that power corrupts, but when a new enemy threatens the survival of the empire, he must decide if he can rise above his tragic lineage and be the heir his people need. I read All My Rage by Sabaa Tahir a few years ago, and I really enjoyed it. I thought that her writing was really well done, but That story takes place in our world. I haven't read her writing in a fantasy world yet, so I am very interested in trying it out. I've had my eye on the Ember and the Ashes series. I just haven't picked it up because a quartet is a bit daunting, and I feel like this duology might be a little bit more manageable. Then into our October releases, the first one is The Hurricane Wars by Thea Guanzon. Book 1 in the Hurricane Wars trilogy was published in 2023, and Book 3, This Shattered Tempest, will be published on October 6th. The Hurricane Wars follows an orphan named Taliesin who fights against the Night Emperor for freedom. She has secret magic coursing through her veins that was believed to be wiped out years ago. Prince el-arifi is the Emperor's only heir, tasked with obliterating threats to the Empire. He sees Taliesin on the battlefield with the magic that killed his grandfather, turned his father into a monster, and ignited the Hurricane Wars. Taliesin and el-arifi know the war can only end with them, but when a new threat emerges, they form an uneasy alliance that could save their world or destroy it. I haven't heard much about this series, but I am always searching for a good enemies to lovers romantasy, and this is at least being described as that. I don't know if it'll actually end up being a true enemies to lovers, but I absolutely love a female main character with a backbone, and the fact that Taliesin is already placed on the battlefield in the synopsis means that we can hopefully skip all of the shy and demure preamble and hopefully just jump in with her already being a badass. Then on the same day, the third book in the Villains trilogy by V.E. Schwab will be published. Book 1 in the Villains trilogy is Vicious, which was published in 2013. Like I said, the third book, Victorious, will be published October 6th. V.E. Schwab is the author of The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil, and a Darker Shade of Magic series. I haven't read any of those, really. The Villains series is a dark academia story that follows college roommates Victor and Eli. In their senior year, they share a research thesis investigating the possibility of someone developing extraordinary abilities. But things go wrong as their project moves from academic to experimental. 10 years later, Victor breaks out of prison with the help of a young girl with a secret ability. Meanwhile, Eli is working to eradicate every other superpowered person aside from his sidekick. Armed with terrible power on both sides, driven by the memory of betrayal and loss, the arch nemesis have set a course for revenge. But who will be left alive at the end? I have yet to finish a V.E. Schwab book. I did read a few chapters of The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue a few years ago and ended up DNFing it because it was slow paced. But this synopsis really intrigues me. It has a comic book kind of vibe that I feel like would lend itself to a faster pace than what I found in Addie LaRue. The whole synopsis and the world just feels a little bit more up my alley. One of my friends has read this series as well as A Darker Shade of Magic, and she loved both of them. So I am interested in giving this a shot. Then the final series we're going to talk about is The Crucible by Abigail Owen. Book 1 was The Games Gods Play, and that was published in 2024. And the third and final book of this trilogy, The Wrath Gods Reap, will be published November 17th. The Crucible trilogy is set in a world based on Greek mythology. Every 100 years, the gods hold a deadly contest called the Crucible, in which they choose mortals to compete for them to determine who will sit on the throne of Olympus. Our main character is chosen by Hades to compete in the Crucible, and we have absolutely no idea why. Is she a pawn? Is she bait? Or something else entirely? Hades is playing by his own rules, and death will win at any cost. I read the Percy Jackson series in 2024, which I know is very late for most readers. After reading that, I was just itching for a more mature version of a Greek mythology inspired universe, and so I ended up buying book 1 of this series thinking it was a standalone, and just have been waiting ever since. I feel like The second book didn't get nearly as much hype as the first, but like I said, I've been waiting since the very beginning to read this series, so I'm excited that I'm actually going to be able to pick it up this year. So those are the 9 series that will officially be finished by the end of 2026. Let me know if there are any series that I missed. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Let me know if you have read some of these series and if you think they are worth reading, or if you're planning to read them. I would love to know that too. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!